Just go ahead and start. Okay.
Please.
All right, good morning. I am Danielle Gonzalez, the president of the Albuquerque Public Schools Board of Education. I would like to begin by introducing my fellow board members here with me this morning. We have board member Josefina Dominguez, board member Ronalda Tome Orito, board member Crystal Tapia Romero, and board member Courtney Jackson. And I am especially pleased to introduce, for the very first time, Superintendent-elect Dr. Gabriela Duran-Blakey. It has been quite a journey to get to this moment, and I'm really excited that we're done. I also want to say that this is not a decision that any of us or the additional board members who are not able to be here for the press conference today, this is not a decision that any of us took lightly. In fact, the school board has only 3 responsibilities: approving the district budget, setting policy for the district, and hiring the superintendent, which we believe is the most consequential decision we're making this year. So we took it very seriously because we know how much these decisions matter, not just for us, not just for our community, but most importantly for our students. So they are critically important because we know that they depend on Albuquerque Public Schools for so much. This was a thorough and a deliberate process. And in this, we wanted to make sure that we were getting it right, because we recognize that there are some things that the school district has not gotten right for all kids. We know that APS hasn't always provided the very vision for all students, especially those who have been historically underserved. This board knows that we need to improve student outcomes. And we also know that student outcomes don't change until adult behaviors change, including and especially at the top. In a moment, you will hear from our next superintendent, but first I'd like to drag it on a little longer by talking about the process that got us to where we are today. The APS Board of Education began the nationwide search for a new superintendent last October. We asked for your help and thousands of you answered the call. Many families, staff, and community members and students also attended public forums at the end of last year. More than 7,000 people weighed in on an online survey. Nearly 500 people attended a marathon day of public forums last week, where you had the opportunity to meet our finalists and to weigh in on them. Additionally, last week's forums got over 3,000 views on YouTube. Stemming from that public forum, we received written comments from over 450 people during that forum, which were then shared with all of the board members and considered as we weighed our decision. So thank you for all of that feedback. Through all of these interactions, you, the public, were asked to tell us the qualities, experience, and expectations you have for the next superintendent. Our choice is a reflection of what you told us. And we heard over and over again that our next superintendent should be someone who believes all students can learn and succeed, wants to improve student outcomes, and who knows how to do it. You wanted someone who understands, values, and respects Albuquerque and New Mexico's unique culture and assets. You told us you want someone committed to equity, someone willing to help APS address the Martinez-Yazzie settlement, someone who listens to and respects families, students, educators, and community, someone who can hit the ground running with the experience, passion, and mindset to implement the district's new strategic plan, Emerging Stronger. You told us you want someone ready to make real change. That person is Dr. Gabriela Duran-Blakey. If you attended or viewed any of our public forums and heard Dr. Blakey talk so passionately about our students and public education, you know why we selected her as the next superintendent. If you have worked with Dr. Blakey over the past 2 decades in APS, or if you or your children were in her classes or schools, you know how much she cares, how innovative she can be, and how persistent she is. You know how ready she is to make changes to benefit our students and staff. We would be remiss to not thank the 23 other educational leaders who applied for this position. Each candidate's talent and expertise made this selection difficult. Our extraordinary pool of applicants is evidence of the success of the process, and we had two extremely qualified finalists. We appreciate Dr. Thomas Ahart, who traveled to Albuquerque as a finalist to let the board and the rest of the community get to know him, and we wish him the best in his future endeavors. The search for a superintendent is over. It led us to the right person for the job, and we can't wait to get to work. So now it is my honor to hand it over to and introduce the incoming APS Superintendent, Dr. Gabriela Duran-Blakey, who is currently the Chief Operations Officer of APS, previously served as an Associate Superintendent in APS and an Assistant Superintendent in Santa Fe Public Schools, and is poised to take APS to the next level. Congratulations, Dr. Blakey, a leader who will make all decisions in the best interest of all of our students. Y para los hispanohablantes, quiero presentarte a la doctora Gabriela Duran-Blakey, la próxima superintendente de las escuelas públicas de Albuquerque.
Thank you, Board President Gonzalez, and thank you all members of the board. I am humbled to be standing before you this morning, but it's not like I haven't stood before you many times before. You know me as an APS teacher, principal, charter school founder, associate superintendent, and chief operations officer. I can't count how many times that I've talked to the media, to the public, about working to improve Albuquerque Public Schools. But this time I'm talking to you as our next superintendent, and wow, what an honor. Thank you to the Board of Education for putting your trust in me, and to all of you who came out during public forums and throughout the search process to support me and also express your concerns. I hear you, and I want you to know that I have a plan. I shared with the board a 90-day plan that I will implement as soon as I take helm as the superintendent. I won't go over the details now, but I know what I'm going to do in the first few days, weeks, and months on the job. For example, I plan to assess the strengths and weaknesses of the district's academic programs and evaluate the district's current financial position, and strengthen the superintendent board relationship, as well as relationships with community partners, administrators, teachers, and our support staff. But most importantly, I will do everything in my power to improve our student outcomes. There's so much work to do. What I listed now only touches the surface. Let me tell you, I already have my sleeves rolled up. As Nelson Mandela once said, there can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than in which it treats its children. And I know our community and the dedication that we have to our children. Albuquerque, let's be an example to the rest of the world. So yes, President Gonzalez, I am ready to get to work.
Before I open up to questions, I do want to share a little bit about next steps, process, and timing. In the coming months, Dr. Blakey will work closely with the current APS Superintendent, Scott Elder, to better understand the district's intricacies, responsibilities, challenges, and successes. And both leaders are committed to ensuring a seamless and smooth transition. So thank you, Scott. Dr. Blakey will officially take over Superintendent Scott Elder's duties on July 1st. I also want to address the superintendent's salary, because I think that's probably a point of interest. When we initiated the search for a new superintendent, we reviewed salaries for superintendents of large school districts like ours, and our incoming superintendent's salary is on par with that of similar districts. The new contract will be provided to the media, and the incoming superintendent signed a 2-year contract with a $295,000 a year salary. So we will now open up the floor to your questions. We have one in the back.
Thank you. And I think the main message is that we're going to do great things together. I take my role very seriously, and I know that the community trusts me. And with that trust comes a lot of responsibility. So I want the teachers and the children to know that they're in good hands with APS and with my leadership.
It's been a long road.
It's a little surreal that I'm feeling very proud. You know, I just see myself as a student that grew up in Albuquerque, and I think my biggest humility is just knowing that I have a commitment to our community and to our children. And honestly, I hope to serve as a role model, and that there are girls at Van Buren Middle School right now looking up, thinking that they can accomplish whatever they work for, and that we set the stage for them to be prepared for that. And so right now I feel very humbled, and I also have a big sense of responsibility on my shoulders. But most importantly, I hope to serve as a role model for our community of what we can do together. I think the biggest thing is to continue the road that we have worked so hard on over the past year. The board's commitment to the goals and guardrails that you see surrounding this room, and their commitment to make sure that we implement the strategic plan. So I really do believe that the foundation of the work is set forward for us, and that we have a committed team with the superintendent and the board and the administration to get things moving with the roadmap that we have in front of us. So a lot of the 90-day plan is to get momentum behind the emerging stronger. It's a little bit of the superintendent's role, particularly in making sure that the foundation is set, and that I've looked at all of the duplication in the district, for example, to make sure that we're set up for success. Because our staff takes the responsibility to implement the strategic plan very seriously. But as a leader, I need to make sure that the foundation and the conditions in order to do that work is set for success for our staff. He's going to see a lot of me, so I'm sure he's really excited about it. But Superintendent Elder and I have had a working relationship over the past few years. And I know that he has a lot of information that he needs to share with me. And I know that we work really well together as far as making sure there's a smooth transition. And he'll probably get really sick of me asking questions of him. I think my biggest message is that I believe in you, and our community is going to do great things, and you can do great things. And I want our children and my Hispanic brothers and sisters to know that we're going to accomplish things together that we never saw possible. And we have a great belief in what we can do together.
So I don't know that there's any sort of routine, given that all of us are new board members. This is the first time we've hired a superintendent, so there is no precedent for this board. I would say that internal or external wasn't one of the criteria by which we judged our candidates. We judged our candidates by which the criteria that I shared, do they believe students can learn? Do they have evidence of improving student outcomes? Are they committed to community engagement? Are they standing of the Ozzie Martinez lawsuit? So those were the factors, among others, by which we judged our candidates. And certainly there is the consideration of internal versus external, but that wasn't one of the things that was on our rubric. Any, yes.
Talk a bit about.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. All of those things that I ran through, Dr. Blakey really demonstrated that she has the skills, competencies, experience to meet those. But also vision and passion really stood out. I talked about how passionately she spoke about this district and her own experience coming up in this district. I think there's other factors too, of course, like school safety, equity, and transparency, which are all areas where Dr. Blakey has also demonstrated some really significant assets and skills, particularly for this community. So she certainly stood apart there. Any other questions? Great. Well, if you do, there's Monica. All right, well, thank